Welcome to the Attention Now podcast, where we talk to successful business people to provide quality content and business mindset and a path on how to succeed. Today on the show, we have Charles Lynn Lowder. Lynn's an entrepreneur. He served as team leader on First Recon in South Vietnam. He was also awarded the Silver Star for Valor, Bronze Star with Combat V, Purple Heart for wounds received in action. He's a founder of Veterans Business Project, which is an amazing project we're going to talk about today. CEO of Rosie's Home Cooking, great restaurant. You guys need to check it out. That's where I actually met Lynn. And he went from enlisted to a JAG officer, which is incredible. Lynn, it's great to have you on the show today. Excited for our audience to get to know you and hear what you're currently working on. Semper Fi, and welcome to the show.
Semper Fi, Dave. Honored to be here, by the way, so thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, Lynn. I had the pleasure of meeting you at the restaurant and hear you speak as a keynote speaker at the Marine Corps Ball last year, and you actually invited me. I hadn't been to the Marine Corps Ball in a while, so was happy to, it was great to hear your story. And I know you have a lot of great stories, so maybe we could cover one on the podcast today. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your journey in the Marine Corps? Because I know I didn't cover everything. So if you could expand on that a little bit, that would be awesome.
Sure. Downstate, small town guy. I was able to get up here north and play football for Northern Illinois University for about 2.5 years. I wasn't ready for academia. Football was fine. Academia, not so much. But the war in Vietnam was going on. Most of my friends in high school were either coming, going, or there. And I really wanted to be a Marine. So I finished the last game of my junior season, told my wife, Sandy, who I met out there at that time, I was quitting school, withdrawing and going into the Marine Corps. I wanted to go to Vietnam, felt like I should. I wanted to be a Marine. One of those people, you're one of those people. So did that, enlisted, went in, served about 1.5 years. As an enlisted Marine, Vietnam was going pretty hot and heavy in 68, 67, 8, 9. So the Marine Corps has always traditionally taken more junior officers from the ranks than any other service down through the decades. And they had an enlisted commissioning program at that point in time. You still do. And I wasn't that fired up for it, but my good friend was, John Slater. So I ended up going to OCS and then the basic school. Then I was a team leader in First Force Reconnaissance Company in Vietnam doing long-range recon work. Ended up coming back, ended up staying in actually longer than I would have ever thought. 10 years in the infantry, and then lateraled over, ended up becoming a JAG officer, a lawyer in the Marine Corps. And that's really where I finished up. Then out into the civilian world, starting in trial work to begin with. That's kind of it in a nutshell.
Awesome. What was your game plan when you left the Marine Corps? Did you have a game plan? It's like, hey, I'm gonna do X, Y, Z, or did you have a career path already established?
Well, I had a law degree at that point, a law license here in Illinois.
Okay.
So I didn't want to take the bar exam again, that's for sure. So I came back to Illinois, and one of my teammates from Northern Illinois University, Ed Nielsen, was with a law firm downtown in Chicago, and I actually went out to interview with him about a month before I was getting off active duty, and interviewed that afternoon, got hired that afternoon. So the plan was pretty much on the spot, and I was going to be a trial lawyer and try cases. And so that's really what I did. And I ended up doing that for 24 years.
Oh,
I was
wow.
in a couple different firms, but that's where I got started and kind of went from there. We settled a family in Naperville, Illinois, when it was about 55,000 people. And I went to work again. And where I got niched, this was in a defense firm. I was niched in professional malpractice defense work, which meant doctors for the most part. So that's what I did when I got back, starting out of the Marine Corps.
Awesome. And just to backtrack a little bit, because a lot of people, it's like, hey, you know what? All these people that are successful, they probably might have had like a golden spoon or something fed to them. Your lifestyle when you were growing up, did you come from a prominent family? What was your background like, so people could understand, if they have had a challenge, if they could still succeed?
Sure. Well, thanks. Growing up in downstate Illinois, we moved around quite a bit, small towns for the most part, and I was one of those youngsters, young men growing up that really needed a father figure. My view of that whole dynamic is, I think as young boys, we're coded, I believe, we grow from the mother towards the father. And if that father image is fuzzy or non-existent, we're in trouble. So, uh, basically, by the time I got out of high school, Dave, I'd run away from home 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And so I know what that's like. Inner city kids in the city of Chicago, I know that turf better than probably most. And like some of those kids down there, the only thing that got me out of there was I could run a 4.5 40. That's straight up truth.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was it. And that got me up at Northern. It got me on a football team and changed the vector of my life. So growing up, um, when I got in the Marine Corps, I think, and I think you'd back me up in this. You get in the Marine Corps like we do, and Marines are going to find some things to complain about. We always do, right? So, where's my mail? Chow, all the rest of it. But the truth of it is, and I think I can say it for me, I don't think I ever ate better than when I came in the Marine Corps.
Oh,
You
wow.
have 3 square meals a day. You got a roof over your head. You got clothes to wear and all the rest of that. But I think a lot of guys, really, in truth, find stability and we find a place to belong in the Marine Corps. And my life really took on much more shape and form when I came in the Marine Corps. My senior drill instructor, Gunnery Sergeant Bell, really is the father figure that I think the good Lord put in the middle of my life. He is the one that really encouraged me to go to the ECP program. He stretched me mentally and physically. And I should tell you, or maybe add this in. I was a speaker at drill instructor school in San Diego for 11 straight years.
Oh, wow.
Marine Corps would have me out there 3 to 4 times a year, and it was an autobiographical conversation that I would have with these soon-to-be drill instructors. Now, these are the cream of the crop of the Marine NCOs. They're
Oh,
tremendous Marines there. This started in 1998, and we weren't at war, but during the tenure of my time going out there, we did end up going to war. And I saw the complexion of the classes change in terms of combat experience and so forth. I told them the story of my life, as a kid growing up and unstable. You went to boot camp. I know you saw other guys like me coming in there, figure out what planet I'm on and who am I, the whole bit, and then the Marine Corps starts to work on us, discipline and that pride and so forth, and it gets it done. But my discussion with the drill instructors always was about Gunnery Sergeant Bell, about the impact that they're going to have on young men as they move through that process, and how important I think it is for those drill instructors to really dig in, dive deep, do the level best job they can, because as you and I well know, if it doesn't go good in boot camp, if we don't really drink in all that the Marine Corps has to give us, then you're not going to get optimum results on the battlefield. And the Marine Corps has always been noted for optimum results on the battlefield. So I would tell these drill instructors, you're going to change. It's going to be more than training Marines, converting or transforming recruits into Marines. You're going to be changing the vector of these young men's lives for good. And hopefully, I would tell them decades from now, there's going to be another old goat up here talking to a bunch of drill instructor students, talking about the impact that they would have on those recruits and on the life of that speaker. That was my hope, and that was the discussion that we really had out there. And I was honored to be there. These Marine DIs do an incredible job. It all, as you know, as we know, it all starts there. If it doesn't happen right in boot camp, it won't happen right on the battlefield. And the Marine Corps really works on that notion,
Yeah, I agree
heavily.
100%. I have a good friend that was a drill instructor, and he tells me that all the time. It's like, you know what? I just try to serve and help those guys as much as possible, because if not, they're not going to succeed. So you hit the
That's it.
nail on the head. Did
Yep.
Gunnery Sergeant Bell coach you or help you afterwards, or was that just the impact was just during the boot camp? time.
It was situational to boot camp only, Dave. I,
Okay.
I, I did run into his brother, by the way, in
Oh, no.
Okinawa in
Okay.
1974. At that point, I was with 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines on Oki, and we had this guy named Bell, and he kind of looked like I thought uh, what Gunnery Sergeant Bell looked like appearance-wise.
Okay.
And I walked up to him one day, and I mentioned, I had a drill instructor that was really top rate, Gunnery Bell, and he said, "Oh, well, that's my brother." So I was able to get the word back to back to his brother, and Gunny Bell became a first sergeant. And oh, by the way, I have done some speaking through the years, talked to military units and to some collegiate football teams. And I always talk about how, we all have, God has a plan and purpose in our life now. And I get really straight at it. I tell people, Dave, that I want nothing left unsaid. I'm not planning on checking out anytime soon, but and I have 3 kids, and I tell them, while we can say what we want to say it. And if you love somebody, tell them. If somebody blesses you, if they're a good friend, tell them, thank them while we can.
Absolutely.
So in talking to these young kids, I will kind of go autobiographical. I'll talk about, I needed a father, and I finally found one in the form of Gunnery Sergeant Bell. I asked them if they'd like to see a picture of my dad. And they always go, "Oh, yes, sir." So over here, I'll have a picture of our boot camp platoon teed up on an overhead projector. And so I say, "Okay, well, I go over there and flick it on. And as you well know, in the front row in the middle are the DIs.
Right.
And the senior DI is dead in the middle. And I'll
Middle.
say,
Yep.
that's my dad right there. Well, Gunny Bell is black. He's African American, by the way. And I make the point that, God's plans aren't our plans. And as you and I know, we line up. Number one, we're all his kids, first of all. We need to get that straight. And we need to act that way. And as brother Marines, you and I know, we line up on the battlefield, and we're diverse and we're tough. And the people on the other side are going to have a very long day when they face us. So
Absolutely.
we get the diversity part
That-
real clearly, but it's really it's what we're supposed to be doing anyway. We're
That's
all his kids.
That's amazing that he made that much of an impact in your life and just in boot camp, which is incredible, right? And I agree with you 100%, right? In the Marine Corps, we learned we're all green, right? So
Yep.
it doesn't matter what you're like, as long as
Yep.
you're a good person, good morals, good values, let's work together, let's be friends, whatever the case is, right? So I've always been
Sure.
that's I had that conversation with someone this morning, right? So
Hmm.
I'm getting some sun in my face, but that's okay. Uh,
Sure.
so that's awesome, Lynn. Thank you for sharing that. Uh, what was the what was the most valuable lesson you learned in the Marine Corps?
Hmm. I'm going to tell you 2 ways, really, because people have asked me that before, and
Okay.
I'll tell them. I tell them I don't think they're quite ready for it, but you're going to get it
All right.
completely. They say, what's the most important thing you learned in the Marine Corps? I said, well, I learned to shut up.
Yep.
Shut up.
Yep.
Do your duty, do what you're told, and execute. And honestly, as you well know, we know a lot of people never learn that lesson. Shut your mouth. You got 2 ears. Listen up. And in the Marine Corps, we learn to do what we're told and follow our orders. But you don't back talk the DI. They're not interested in your opinion. In fact, your opinion doesn't matter at that point. That's for sure.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, I learned to shut my mouth and listen. Lifelong life lifelong lesson there, buddy.
Oh, that's awesome.
That
That's
was the
that's
that was
that's a
the
great
first one.
lesson. I definitely get it. I agree with you 100%. What was the
Sure.
biggest struggle in the Marine Corps?
Mm, gosh. You know, I did long range recon work in Vietnam. We had six-man units in our special operations unit. I know you know all about force recon, but we were running long range missions out near the ocean border, doing that kind of work. And you go through some pretty tough times uh, doing that kind of stuff. And at the time, of course, it's you go through some challenges. And as you understand, also, if you're a team leader, if you're a leader in the Marine Corps, be you NC, be a sergeant, corporal, lieutenant, whatever, we're supposed to set the example from the and do what we're supposed to be doing, complete that mission, look out for your men, and all the rest of that stuff. Those were tough times, and yet I look back now as an old man, and like most things in life, I don't know, I've never appreciated anything, Dave, fully as deeply as I should, unless I have sacrificed for it, struggled for it, done those things. And I know that applies to everybody. We don't appreciate anything really of substance unless we sacrifice, struggle, work hard for it, sacrifice for it. Nothing worthwhile comes easily or overnight. And being a Marine, as you well know, definitely fits that category. But it was combat, the time in Marine Corps in Vietnam for that year, but serviced some really great Marines, did some significant stuff, we thought, and that's what we did in our same thing Spec Ops people are doing today. And yet I look back now and I'm so grateful and thankful that I was able to do that. The biggest fear that I had in all of that was having to write a letter home to a mom and a dad, telling them who their son was and the circumstances of his being taken out. So my number one goal that was to do our mission and get my guys home alive. And now we might be missing chunks here and there, here and there, but not alive. And yeah, those were tough times in many cases, but yeah, they were the most important times.
Yeah, because it was
And
tough, like you said. So that makes sense.
yeah,
And that kind of brings me to the next question. Obviously, going through combat battle, and we've had this discussion in the past at your restaurant. People that have PTSD and TBI, right? What was some of the things that helped you adjust to be able to operate, be able to work in the business world, or just operate normal, if
yeah,
whatever normal is, right? So
right. Good point. Yeah, normal sometimes is like your spec ops work. You're going at Mach 2, and then you're out and back in the world here, back in the civilian life, and you're going 2 miles an hour, and that's unsettling to unnerving in some cases. And we get off active duty. I know when I came back to the States in late '69. They're trying to figure out, number one, who am I now? I would have never said it, and as you know, we don't say that. We're just trying to, get on with our lives. And number two, you're trying to figure out what your lane in life is. Now, I stayed in the Marine Corps for a number of years. I stayed in the Marine Corps. Um, it was home. It was who I identified in being. You're a Marine, and I'm a Marine. We'll always be Marines. That's just a fact. So I stayed in for a number of years. Getting out, same thing. Now I'm in the civilian world. My whole identity was wrapped up in that uniform. I'm not wearing that uniform now, overtly at least. So I'm trying to figure out what my lane in life is going to be. And Dave, I'll tell you, it wasn't easy. I was an attorney. I did attorney work in a couple law firms. I went into general counsel work with a couple of companies, mailboxes, et cetera, out in San Diego. Did that for a couple of years. Ran some other companies and so forth. But, I don't think I ever felt I fully fit in, if I'm being really frank here, and I want to
absolutely.
be.
I, I
I
get
don't
it
believe I ever,
100%. Yep.
I never felt fully fitting in any of those companies that I was in. You know how that M16 bolt goes home and locks in before you fire it, that final click? Never got that final click. Now, I have that final click right here. I'm talking to my brother right here.
Absolutely.
Uh, the veterans family, they're my family. I get them, they get me, and it's a really positive thing. But there's history here to draw on too, and I admire you for all you're doing. Uh, all you've accomplished, and you're your own man. Uh, I don't want to get too far ahead here, but post World War II, 49.7%, as we have learned, of our veterans became small business owner operators. A staggering statistic. 49.7% did it, you and I know that more than 49.7% thought about it. So I'm comfortable saying over 50% of our veterans certainly thought about it. Almost half did. Uh, and there's a reason for that. And they were very successful rowing their own rowboat, if you will. And I am firmly of the belief now that many of our veterans, I would almost say many to most, Dave, are far better off rowing their own rowboat.
Absolutely.
The notion is to find out which rowboat you're going to get in and which direction you're going to pull those oars. But we are very capable of being the captain of our own ship, and that's what I've learned. And in more recent years, and you've been into Rosie's, I don't think I've been this happy since high school, Dave, to be frank about it. I probably should have been slinging hash in my hometown, downstate Illinois, since about 1964 anyway. I'm just a small town Bubba, but uh, it just takes time to figure it out. And, you do a spin in combat, it kind of, in some ways, turns your world upside down, maybe. Youth and laughter goes real quick. That's done. And now you got to figure some things out. And the figuring out is not easy to do. Um,
Do you
so, but
enjoy
I'm
do you enjoy
sorry.
Rosie's the most because you have a new mission and you have freedom, do you think? Or what's the key indicators there that you think has made you feel like you're back in, as happy as you were in high school?
It's interacting with people, Dave.
Yep.
I've
And you
endeavored,
do
we
a
endeavor.
fantastic job with that, Lynn. Guys, if anybody lives in Chicago or Naperville area, you need to go to Rosie's. Lynn talks to everyone that comes in, and you could tell he has a servant heart. So I think some of the best leaders that I've worked for in corporate and in the Marine Corps have always been servant leaders. So I give you a lot of credit, Lynn, for what you're doing. Go ahead, sorry.
Thanks, Dave. It's the people. It's the people. It's the people.
Okay.
I wanted a 50s diner. When I'm a downstate hick. Every little town had a diner, no matter how small the town was. No matter how small the town was, and you were never a stranger. You felt, warm and invited and so forth. You have a good meal, get caught up on the local news, find out who got drunk and ran over the gas pump on Saturday night. Things like that. All the important stuff. But the template was set in my mind, I think. We're all products of our experience, but that small town, that aspect never got out of my head. So we wanted to create a 50s diner with really good food service. Truly, people say that. We're really after that. Um, as you know, we got a missing man table. We honor people in there, our veterans. On the other side, we have Rosie the Riveter from World War II, pictures of our first responders and the flag and so forth. And we have good rock and roll, by the way. We're talking Everly Brothers, Chuck Berry, stuff like that. So for old goats like me, it's like a step back in time. And people tell me that. They say, I feel like I've stepped back in time a little bit. And I tell them, well, that's great. So, but like it's like people talk about the Marine Corps. What is the Marine Corps all about? And you and I both know the Marine Corps is an organization, but the Marine Corps is the people, the Marines. Without Marines, there's no Marine Corps. Without Marines picking up those rifles and doing the work that you and I have done, it doesn't happen. Well, a restaurant, you serve food and you want to have the right atmosphere, but it's the people. And I want people to feel at home. I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to know that we're honored to have them there. It's all about honor in terms of honoring people. Like we mentioned, the missing man table and Rosie the Riveter and so forth. But if you're not serving people good food and competently and warmly in that process, you're not honoring people.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, actually, I've never
that's what
felt
we
more
want to do.
welcome than any other restaurant, Lynn. So fantastic job. I wanted to talk a little bit about Veteran Business Project, but I had one other question before we go there. Uh, where did your mindset come from? Obviously, you played football before joining the Marine Corps, right? So you were already a go-getter, right? You had a challenge in life beforehand. So what made you want to be successful and achieve more in your life?
I think I just kind of, well, I don't know, Dave, honestly, I'm still a small town guy. I still feel like I've got things to learn yet to do. and things that I want to do, I kind of see it. I don't know if I've ever felt like I've really, fully arrived, so to speak, in any particular thing yet. I still, again, we have veterans we need to help and veteran business project and so forth. It just has kind of come in the process of just living life. I'd like to say I had a grander scheme in things, Dave, but truthfully, maybe not so much. And also, I should say too, the plans or whatever one thinks that one wants to do, I think we all need to be ready to turn on a dime and head in another direction. Again, your training and my training in the Marine Corps. Marine Corps is very unconventional in the sense that we can spin on a dime and head in another direction real quick.
Right.
A strategy doesn't work, we're going to get on to another one quickly. Where there's a lot of chaos in the world, and there's certainly chaos in the battlefield. For the Marines, chaos means opportunity. We have a clear head. We're going to move in a direction and be decisive. So I like back when it comes right down to it, it's serving people, Dave. That's all I know to do is to help people.
But before you
Uh,
actually went to college, though, right? Because there's some people out there. It's like, man, I don't know what I want to do. I want to go to college. I want to do trade school, and we're talking about veteran business project for the veterans. But some
mhm.
people don't have that gung ho attitude that, yeah, I could play football, or yes, I could do that. Did that just come naturally for you, you think, or did you see that from someone else? It's like, man, these guys, I want to be like Uncle Tom or whoever.
Yeah, can't point to any specific example career-wise. Now, I had a wonderful maternal grandfather and grandmother, just good, kind people.
Okay.
My mother was a small town girl. I should tell you this. I was in the fourth grade. We were living in a town called Lovington, maybe 1,200 people. And I was helping her take the laundry down. Remember when we used to hang laundry out on clotheslines outside? All that kind of
Clothespins,
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. There you go. So I was helping her haul in some laundry one evening. And I said, I think it was fourth grade. Yeah. I said, Mom, what should I do when I grow up? And in her country girl way, she said, Oh, son, just help people.
Nice.
That's what she said. Help people. And now I look back and I think of the wisdom of what she said. Um, and let me add in something real quick here. When I talk to those young kids I was telling you about, football teams and units, I tell them that at my age, hopefully I figured a couple things out. And this much I know. I tell them that the one thing I learned in combat was the appreciation of life and how quickly it can be taken. What a
Mhm.
blessing it is. So, what is the point of this human existence we have? And I tell them that at the end of our days, it's my firm belief that only two things will have mattered in your life, just two. And those are who did you love and who did you help along life's path? There's no U-Hauls behind a hearse. It's not nothing wrong with having nice things and accomplishing different things in life, but we're people, and we're supposed to be serving and helping one another. On the issue of diversity again for a moment, we are all God's kids. We belong to Him and we belong to each other. And if we could ever get that straight, the golden rule thing, I believe everybody needs a code of life to live by, and do unto others as you would have them do unto you is pretty daggone good. So if we could ever get that straight, I don't think there's precious little we couldn't accomplish as a nation and as a people around the world. We're all His kids.
Right, right.
So So anyway, that's kind of, what
Okay,
I've figured out along the years, uh, being what we're doing now, helping veterans find their way,
perfect.
coming off active duty means everything, so much to me. And then Rosie's interacting with people and making them feel comfortable at home and serving them there. It's a natural fit. And as you know, Rosie's is an outgrowth of Veteran Business Project, by the way. I know we've talked about it in the past. Um, So I need to shut down. There was a question about 20 minutes ago. Forgive me.
Oh, no,
Uh,
no, no worries, no worries. That's why I love talking to you. You have great stories, and I've had a couple of other people on the podcast before that they're great storytellers, and I think people love to hear that, right? Uh, so one of the things I did want to talk about is the Veteran Business Project, where you're able to help veterans start their own business. And you were mentioning earlier that you think all veterans should own their own business, and I 100% agree with you. I know that I worked in the corporate world for many years. I was working at a consulting company, and I had a good friend of mine that we were working downtown, and as we learn discipline, work hard, get the mission done, right? We're working hard daily. We had other consultants come to us and say, can you please don't work as hard as you're working because you guys are making us look bad, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
they would actually goof around all day long, stay late till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and we'd get our job done and get out of there. It's like, okay, what?
Yeah.
And like you said, I never felt like it fit in anywhere else. So, there's different resources. We're talking about veterans for today, but there's other companies that if you're not a veteran, that you could actually go buy a business and move forward. So if you could elaborate a little bit about the veteran business projects, I think it's a great project. I think I agree with you 100%. All veterans should take a look at this and see if it's a great fit for them, because I think we learn to fight for freedom, and this is a way we could actually have freedom and have a mission and to be able to help others.
Okay, sure. Some years ago, I stood up a veterans program at the University in Missouri, and um, actually ended up knocking the dust off my Vietnam brain, if you will. I was out there to provide a support structure, which really boiled down to transfer credits and then mental wellness, because you had a lot of veterans out there and seeing a lot of combat. We were 7 miles away from Whiteman Air Force Base. This was the University of Central Missouri. So we had a lot of active duty people on campus too. And then jobs, if they're going to get their degree, then where's that going to go? It didn't take long. I started getting a steady stream of veterans coming into my office asking basically questions that revolved around how do you get in business for yourself? And that sort of started this whole thing. Found it really interesting and what I expected at all. And I mean, it was regardless of gender, race, age, branch of service, MOS in the service, and what their degree preference at that university was. So when it came back, dug in, GI Bill, found out about the number of veterans post World War II that went into business for themselves. I compared that against what's been happening post 9/11, less than 5%. And I'm scratching my head going, goodness gracious, what happened? Because World War II guys, it was a home run. I mean, guys and gals, they did great. Um, Come to find out that banking has changed. The days of George Bailey and that wonderful movie around Christmas time, It's a
Mhm.
Wonderful Life, the local guy
Small
there that,
business. Yep.
yep, exactly. He was lending people money based upon their character. He knew who they were, and they were good people. So he thought they were a good risk, and they were. So banking has changed. Big banks bought up community banks and little banks, and George Bailey, George has left the building along with Elvis. He's not around anymore.
Right.
So that's what I found out, what to do about that. So we jumped in and we went after the financing part, the access to capital part. We made some headway, but there's more headway to be made. We believe, and I believe, the GI Bill that veterans come out with, Dave, as we know, that should be their choice. It should be their choice if they want to go to school, if they want to get a trade, or if they want to start or buy a business. It's their benefit. They've earned it. That's
Yeah,
their
I agree with
choice.
you. That's a good point. Very
We're
good
talking,
point.
yeah, they're full throttle adults. These are big boys and girls. They can. So we're working on that. That's something that needs to be done. Uh, in the process of doing that, we started getting calls and contacts from baby boomers looking to sell their businesses. Right now, across the country here in America, we have the largest wealth transfer in the history of America going on. And that is baby boomers that want to sell their businesses and retire. Um, their kids typically don't want the business. By the way, that's a common theme. We're talking about viable businesses too, Dave. These aren't iffy situations. So that happened. We started getting these calls. We have a board. We talked with them, and we said, what could we do here? So we started talking about a model we call V-Harmony. There's eHarmony to get a date, as we know. There's V-Harmony is matching veterans and military spouses with existing businesses, viable businesses looking to sell. that was the model we created, and we assign a vetted, experienced small business owner to each candidate that wants to go through the program, and we coach them through that entire 9-step process, and it works. It is there's no time frame on it, Dave. Some people come in and they're enthusiastic. Now, in fairness too, it's like anything else. We have some people that are looking and considering, and then we have some people coming in that know exactly right now what business they want to buy, and they want to get together the capital to be able to do it, and they're ready to rock and roll, ready to go. We get and all in between, but the process is significant, and we never leave anybody behind. Sometimes people come in, maybe they lose their job and they've got to back out for a while, catch their breath, and get stable financially. Maybe they get a divorce, something in the family, or a death. Things happen, life happens. So we're able to take people where we find them, and if they need to take time out to attend to whatever they need to attend to, we'll work with that. And then the idea, though, then is to ultimately get them in a position so they can have their own business, create their own destiny, hopefully hire other veterans. We need to do more at that, Dave. We need to do better
Yep.
taking care of our own as veterans. So I tell them, if you're going to have a business, then no business is going to be level and flat. It'll trend down or it'll trend up, depending upon what your goal to do is. So why don't you grow it? Hire other veterans, inspire them, and give them a reason to stick around, which sort of leads into the issue that we've been dealing with here in America for years, and that's veteran suicide.
Right, exactly.
People need hope. They have to have hope. And so I'm not fitting in, nothing works. And then it goes from there. So we want to make sure we help people understand that there is hope. You can do this. So stick around, don't take that option.
And what's the process, Lynn? Do you guys have a portal where they sign up? Do you have a portal where people are able to see the businesses that are available? How long does it usually take from start to finish? I know it could be different for everyone because everyone's different on the
Mhm.
priority, like you mentioned. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, our website is www.veteranbusinessprojectaltogether.org. If you go in there, there's a feature there for veterans and mil spouses that are looking to get into business. They register there, fill out some information. It's all confidential, and then we will call them. There's what we call a qualification call. If they're match ready, do they understand pragmatics of owning and operating a business? Have they thought about the mental side? We work to help them identify their values, their passions, and what they're good at. We can find a business that incorporates that. They got a better chance to succeed. We want to touch on whether or not they've got anything they're dealing with residual to their time in service. That is bodily or anything to do depression, PTSD, things like that. We want to make sure we encourage them and refer them to the VA to get help. That's important. We take them to a due diligence checklist. We want to make sure they understand how thorough you have to be when you're evaluating a business. And we give them a book about cash management called the E-Myth CFO, written by a guy on our board, Fred Parrish. That's a complimentary gift from us to them.
Nice.
We go through that process. That's the first call. From there, then we basically set a time to get back together and decide yes or no. Do you want to go forward or not? If you do, then we'll move it on forward. If not, no problem. You've got our number. Get a hold of us anytime. And we have a list of people. We occasionally will send reminders out. Hey, here we are. Just know that if you ever want to consider, we're here
Perfect.
to move forward from there.
Is there a list of the businesses you could see, or do you have to go through the process to kind of understand what's out there?
Over time, Dave, the way we've seen this is, you know, we're in a time where you see a lot of employees wanted signs out there, publicly. A lot of businesses are, I'd say, somewhat reluctant to reluctant on
Let them
letting
know they're
people know
selling.
my
Yeah.
yeah, my business is on the block. I'm thinking about selling it. So there's some confidentiality there that needs to be observed on that side of the ledger. The people that want to sell a business now. A lot of the action, so to speak, really boils down to business brokers. And we have a list of business brokerage firms and a select group of business brokers that like to work with veterans. So we put them in touch with those people if they want to. Now, we're a nonprofit. So we tell them, though, this is what brokers do, and you can go in there and tell them what you're looking for, and we can start to work towards identifying a business that you think you would want to move into, take
So,
over.
so there's a big variety then they could probably check it, with the brokers then.
There is, and also we've had deals happen because veterans have walked in not knowing who the owner is, expressing and talking to the owner and asking the owner, have they ever considered selling their business? And we've had a few occasions where that actually happened. And
Wow.
I should say also that in the financing part, we've had several situations where the owner has taken back a secondary note loan, making it easier for the veteran to qualify for a loan through a bank and with the SBA. It's all about human dynamics. And again, by and large, people are favorable towards veterans in this day and age as opposed to other times and places.
Yeah.
We,
I
we
was reading
experience before.
recently too, there's a lot of businesses that go unsold, right? So where people can't sell them. So if you're able to walk in somewhere and find one of those businesses, I'm sure I actually read that actually business owners sometimes will even help you finance it because they're going to lose money if they don't sell it, right? They're going to have to dispose of the business, all the assets, and they're not going to be able to do anything with that. So that's a great point to just walk in and talk to people as well, but also come back
Sure.
to Lynn to get more guidance, right, on how to do everything, right? Because you want to have a team that's going to help you move forward and make it happen. Is there any age qualifications? Obviously, people getting out of the Marine Corps are going to be a certain age. Is there any restrictions at all?
Not at all, Dave. It's all about the heart.
Okay.
And back to starting Rosie's. Over the time we've been doing Rosie's, I talked to young and old and in between. No one can, I think, sort of kick their hind end better. Nobody can kick my hind end better than I can kick it. So, you get older, you look back, you go, God, what was I thinking? Commuting all those years and building somebody else's business, that's me. Slow learner, man, slow learner.
I'm there with you.
God. So, any rate, in talking to older veterans, like I say, I'm 79. I talk to older veterans and I say, look, if there's something that you've always wanted to do, something that really is in your heart to do, it's never too late. You can do it. And other people have done it. Well, you and I both know you're talking to veterans here, and veterans are all about do as opposed to
Gotta
running your mouth.
get it done. Yep.
So, and I've been thinking about a diner for years. And so I have a business partner. We open Rosie's. And with veterans, you want to lead by example. You want to put your money where your mouth is. It is never too late. And so the opportunity is out there, young, old, and in between. It can be done. It is being done. Hey, I always come back to Harlan Sanders, Dave, in his 80s, mid
Yep.
80s,
Yep.
when
He
finally,
started
you
it
know,
then. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, started now not sleeping in the back of his car anymore. He developed a business model, and the guy ended up in a real good spot. It really is never too late. And with age too, hopefully you've got some wisdom with you. I don't know any other way to get wisdom than paying attention to other smart people and learning to follow their path. And then also just school of hard knocks, uh, get back up off the deck and keep falling forward, if you will. And then
Awesome.
after a while, you learn a few things, hopefully.
Awesome. I love it, Lynn. On the podcast, we'll put all the links on there for people to sign up and be able to get a hold of you guys. So I think it's a great step. We've learned to accomplish, get stuff done. Lynn and I have both gone the route where we work for somebody, and we know that you're much happier when you have freedom and be able to help and serve people. So definitely take a look at this. You guys could definitely succeed with this, and nobody better than help you with Lynn because, like I said, he has a great heart. He helps people out. You mentioned faith a little while ago, Lynn. Is how important is faith for your success?
It's everything. Um, I want to write a book, Dave. And I've done a few talks on this recently to a few men's groups in the area. It's on the topic of Christ and combat. And what I learned in combat when people are on the precipice, when they think they're actually going to die, it's now. And you see people knock off that pride and that human control thing and ego, all that vanishes. Your spirit inside knows I'm stepping across the line here. I better cut some deals right now. And I know I cut my deal, and the deal is always, please save us, and I'll be good. So that's really it. I'll be your guy. Just get us out of here, please. And so at the end of the day, I get into these conversations. What I do, Dave, is I talk about who Christ was, what we know historically. He was, he lived, he existed. About a 3-year ministry. He was a nobody. Never wrote anything. Had some just kind of regular guys hanging out with him, teaching him a few things. They saw him do a few things. But significantly, when the time comes, when it's showtime, and when the Roman soldiers are coming to pick him up, pick Jesus up, and haul him into court, they all skied out on him. These guys didn't act like Marines. They took off
Yeah.
and saved their lives. But then later on, and this is the part I think a lot of people don't really know or get into much. I talk about these guys that hung out with him. There were 12. One ratted him out, and he took himself out later.
Yep.
One that lived in old age. This guy was exiled by a Roman emperor to some island somewhere. He's out there. But then you start to read how the rest of these guys went down. They died hard.
Yep.
A couple in
Got
India, one
taken
in
out.
Turkey, one
Yep.
in Sudan, one in Britain, of all places. That's a long walk from the Middle East. When you didn't have to go anywhere and talk to anybody about anything, and they did, and they were killed for it.
Right.
Now, I tell people that fight or flight mechanism, it's in our brain. The most primitive part of our brain is to survive. I saw in combat what men will stand their ground and risk their life for and what they will not. And men, in my view, will not die for a lie,
Right.
especially if they can extricate themselves out of a tough spot. They're going to
Right.
honest up right now. None of these guys did that. So when I was middle of my life, I was kind of questioning faith and what I had heard as opposed to what I knew, if you will, Dave. And I was really drilling down. I want to know, is this true or not? Is Jesus, was he real? Was that who he was? He who he did he live here? Was he who he said he was? Or is it all folklore? And I dug in on that. And then I began to think, now wait a minute, you were in Spec Ops. You saw what people did, what you
Mhm.
did.
Yep.
And I reflected on it and I said, you know what? I've got a frame of reference here. I want to get out to other people on. If those guys, being crucified, sawed in half, all this kind of stuff. Only reason they would have done that, Dave, is they saw him again. And when they did, that changed everything.
Yep.
Now they're willing to go to Britain and stand their ground and be killed for it,
Yeah,
or
because they
wherever
scattered
else.
before, right? They scattered before, and then they got the belief afterwards. It's like, oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right. So they're out there now. They won't rat them out. Now they won't. Now they won't. Leave. They won't flee. They're going to stand their ground and do what he told them to do, and be killed for it. That's commitment.
Absolutely. And
Uh,
and talk about leadership. He was the biggest servant ever, right? So
best
which
combat leader ever. Best
okay.
combat leader ever. Knowing how you're gonna be killed, Dave. Knowing up front and go through that. I want to finish on one point if I can. There's a book I recommend it to people when it's the right setting. Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. The
Yep, I
Purpose
read it.
Driven Life.
Awesome. Yep, great book.
Yep. First chapter. It's not about you. And if you want to know why you're here what we're here to do, we're here to serve Him. We were created by Him for Him, and you can serve God and Christ in any number of ways. You can be a lawyer, a doctor, you can be a business owner, you can do all those things. But to your point, you said it early on, state of heart. If you're a servant leader, if you're out to help people, to be kind and caring, and all the rest of that, then you're on the right track. You
Absolutely.
can't miss.
Absolutely. We're about wrapped up, Lynn. Uh, uh, last question I had for you. What would you like the people listening today to know or remember about you or your business?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, shoot. Uh, Born in less than optimal circumstances, or having situations come your way that you think it's a bad deal, it's a bad break, I deserve better, I wish I had more. Oh, nothing worthwhile comes easily. I guess I just hope that people thought I was a good guy, that I truly cared about people. Um, I hope that uh, potentially nobody likes anybody wears their religion on their sleeve, right? And tell you about who they are and all that. You hopefully pretty much tell who people are by how they live. So I hope I'm giving some people some encouragement about Christ and how important that is. If people will just keep him number one, be patient with him. Eventually, these things you're looking to do and the answers you need will come. And he really said, he loves us, but he said one thing. He said, if you love me, obey me, follow my rules. He's not a killjoy. He's trying to help us stay out of those. He's our father. I know you're a dad. I'm a dad. You don't want your kids to screw up. So, and meaning in my case, don't make the same bonehead mistakes I did.
Right.
And you're trying to get out ahead of them and, and steer them away from those kinds of situations. At any rate, I just hope people might say that he was a good guy. That's
Absolutely.
probably about
And
it.
you just brought another thought to my mind is speaking of faith in Christ, many people that have struggled with TBI and PTSD wind
Hmm.
up finding some peace when they connect with God and Christ and their brothers, right? So keep that in mind for the guys that are
Amen.
out there listening to this. If you're having any challenges, just like Lynn said, we're both dads. We would do anything for our kids, right? So the same thing, Christ made you and loves you, and he'll do anything for you. So don't feel like you're ever alone or by yourself because you have someone that is your creator that's going to be there to help you basically have your six. So remember that. Lynn, thank you so much for being on the show. I love you, brother. You're a great man.
Love you too,
And
Dave.
God bless you and your wife. Say hello to your wife. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to coming in and seeing you again and have some great breakfast or lunch at that awesome restaurant.
Thanks for the chance to be here. Love you too, brother. God bless and Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, Lynn.